I bought a $12 painting for the frame. That's the part people always focus on, the absurdity of it. $12 for a Lighthouse print at Goodwill, something mass-produced in the 1970s, the kind of decoration that fills estate sales and donation centers across America. I plan to strip the wood, refinish it, resell it for maybe $40 or $50. Small profit. Justified the pleasure I took in restoration work. I never planned to find a murder confession. I'm Anthony Webb. 41 years old. Furniture restorer in Portland, Maine. I found this vocation by accident, an inheritance of antique chairs from my grandmother, a YouTube tutorial on wood joinery, a discovery that I could see history in grain patterns where others saw only old furniture. My workshop is a converted garage. 800 square feet of tools, projects in various stages, and the particular smell of linseed oil and sawdust that I find more comforting than any candle or air freshener. I make my living three ways. Restoration commissions for wealthy clients, furniture flipping for mid-market buyers, and frame refinishing, cheap, fast, reliable income that keeps cash flowing between larger projects. Every Tuesday, I hit the Goodwill on Forest Avenue. Opening time, 9 a.m., coffee in hand. I scan the furniture section for frames with potential. Solid wood. Interesting joinery. Damage that's cosmetic rather than structural. I buy 3 or 4, spend the week stripping and refinishing, sell them at weekend markets for 300 to 400% markup. March 14, 2023. The painting I bought was unexceptional. 24 by 36 inches, landscape orientation, Lighthouse at dawn, printed on a label affixed to the frame backing. The frame was oak, machine cut but solid, with water damage on the lower rail that would require replacement. I estimated 2 hours of work. $40 resale value. I paid $12. In my workshop, I removed the staples holding the canvas. The Lighthouse was printed on thin fabric, not original art, worthless except as decoration. I set it aside and examined the frame backing. Cardboard, deteriorating, revealing something I didn't expect. A second fabric layer. Adhered to the canvas reverse. I photographed everything before proceeding. This is my protocol: document before altering, preserve the possibility of provenance even for seemingly worthless items. I've learned that the moment you start stripping, sanding, destroying, you lose the chance to go back. I gently peeled the layers apart. And I found her. The woman was young. Early 20s, dressed in clothing I recognized as 1920s style from my grandmother's photographs. Oil on canvas, amateur but competent. Signed in the lower right, MHH 1944. Her expression stopped me. Guarded. Watchful. Something like defiance in her posture, as if she was looking at the painter, at me. Daring us to see what she was hiding. I should have stopped there. Called someone. But I couldn't. I had to know. Behind the portrait canvas was a third layer, crayon on paper, a child's drawing of a house with stick figures labeled Mommy and Me. Dated 1931. Behind that, newspaper from the Des Moines Register, July 1944. Headline announcing D-Day landings. Wrapped around a leather portfolio, water damaged but intact. By this point, my hands were shaking. I knew that I was handling something that had been hidden for decades. Possibly generations. Someone had constructed this. Layered it with intention. Buried a story inside a frame and hoped, prayed, that eventually, someone would look carefully enough to find it. I opened the portfolio. Layer 1, Birth Certificate. Mariah Harper. Born July 14, 1923, Portland, Maine. Layer 2, Marriage Certificate. Mariah Harper to Robert Hale. June 1941, Des Moines, Iowa. Layer 3, Birth Certificate. James Hale. March 1942. Layer 4, 47 love letters between Mariah and a man named David. 1943 to 1944, written on various letterheads, hotels, train stations, military bases. Layer 5, death certificate. Robert Hale. July 1944. Accidental drowning. Cedar River, Iowa. Layer 6, newspaper clipping about Robert's death. Noting he was a strong swimmer, found in shallow water, no witnesses. Layer 7, handwritten confession. 15 pages. Signed Mariah Harper Hale. Dated 1983. I killed my husband. I held him under. David and I planned it for months. I have lived with this for 39 years. Asterisk. I sat with that confession for 3 hours before calling Portland police. I read it twice. Looking for signs of fiction. Finding only the specific details that suggested memory rather than invention. Mariah described the location on the Cedar River. She described Robert's confusion, then panic, then stillness. She described walking home, changing clothes, reporting him missing 12 hours later. She described guilt. 40 years of it. The kind that doesn't fade, that calcifies into something you carry until you find a way to set it down. I called the police. Told them I'd found a murder confession in a thrift store painting. They were skeptical. I don't blame them. 80-year-old murder confessions found in Goodwill donations aren't standard procedure. But I had documentation. Birth certificates. Marriage record. Death certificate with its accidental ruling. I had Mariah's signature on the confession matching her signature on the 1941 marriage certificate. I had enough to justify investigation. Des Moines PD reopened the Robert Hale case. The 1944 investigation had been brief, drowning, accidental, no foul play suspected. But Mariah's confession described details that weren't in the public record. The specific location. The depth of water. The absence of witnesses that had seemed natural in 1944 but suspicious in context. They found David Carruthers, Mariah's correspondent, her accomplice, her lover. He died in 1967. Car accident. No suspicious circumstances. They found Mariah's son, James Hale Jr. living in Arizona. 71 years old. Unaware that his mother had confessed to killing his father. I spoke with him on the phone. Once. He wanted to know how I'd found it. What the layers looked like. Whether she'd said anything about him in the confession. She mentioned you, I told him. Said she was sorry. That she took your father from you. That she hoped you'd understand why she had to tell the truth eventually. He was quiet for a long time. Then, she was an artist, you know. Painted throughout my childhood. Then stopped abruptly in the 1970s. She created one major work in her later years, multimedia project, she called it. Refused to show anyone. Disappeared after her death in 2004. I assumed she'd destroyed it. She hadn't destroyed it. She'd hidden it in plain sight. Embedded her confession in her own artwork, then hidden the artwork behind a generic landscape, donated it, or had it donated, to a thrift store. Waiting for someone patient enough to look beneath the surface. Mariah Harper Hale was a known Portland artist from 1955 to 1975. Her work hung in several local galleries. She'd studied at the Art Students League in New York, married a gallery owner in 1956, raised her son, maintained her studio practice. The Hidden Painting. Now called The Confession by art historians, was created between 1980 and 1983, during a period when Mariah's public work had become minimal. She told friends she was working on something personal. Told her son she was organizing her archives. She was constructing a time capsule of guilt. The layers were intentional. Archaeologically structured. The lighthouse landscape, the visible surface, represented the facade she maintained, the respectable widow persona she'd constructed. The portrait beneath was her self-image at 20, the moment before the murder, when she was still innocent. The child's drawing was her son's artwork, preserved from 1931, representing what she'd taken from him. The newspaper layer marked the date of the crime, July 1944, wrapping the documents like a shroud. The portfolio contained the evidence: birth, marriage, death, love, confession. She'd created a narrative structure that could only be understood by someone willing to destroy the surface to reach the truth. Portland PD faced a legal dilemma. Mariah was deceased. David was deceased. The case was legally closed. But the confession existed, verified, credible. The family had a right to know their family history had been falsified. James Hale Jr. chose not to have the case formally reopened. "My mother spent 40 years hiding this truth in art," he told investigators. She could have burned the confession. She preserved it. She wanted it found eventually, but not to destroy our family. Just to be known. I returned all documents to the family. Kept only the frame, my original purpose for the purchase. It's in my workshop now, holding a mirror. I look at it sometimes, and I remember that people hide their truths in beautiful things, hoping someone patient enough will find them. The painting layers were acquired by the Portland Museum of Art. Not for display, but for preservation, catalogued as Mariah Harper Hale, The Confession, 1980 to 1983, Mixed Media and Documents, gift of the Hale family. Art history doctoral students now study it as an example of embedded narrative and confessional archival practice. I received a $5,000 finder's fee from the museum. Used it to buy better documentation equipment for my workshop. I now photograph the reverse of every piece I acquire. Check for hidden compartments. Examine frames for unexpected weight. I haven't found another secret yet. I'm still looking. Every object in a thrift store had a life before the price tag. Someone chose that Lighthouse painting. Someone hung it on a wall, dusted it, eventually donated it. Mariah Harper Hale chose to hide her confession inside it, trusting that the universe would eventually guide the right person to look beneath the surface. I was that person. Not because I was special. Because I was careful. Because I documented before destroying. Because I recognized that the frame was worth more than the painting, and in seeking that value, I discovered something priceless. Your trash is someone's archive. Your donation is someone's evidence. Before you discard the old, the worn, the seemingly worthless, consider, someone might have hidden their truth inside it, waiting for patience to reveal what haste would destroy. I'm Anthony Webb. And this is my story.